Thank you. Good morning. Will the Committee on Executive Management please come to order? Present are myself, Vice Chair Say, Council Members Kia Aina, Cordero, and Wire. I'd like to welcome you all to the committee. Before we start the meeting, I have some procedural announcements to make. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda when the item is taken up in the following order: in-person testimony in the council chamber, and secondly, remote testimony. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. For remote testifiers, when your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. For those who are joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. Some friendly reminders and tips. Video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're also watching the proceeding on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you're called to testify. When the timer on your screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. All registered testifiers will be called upon first. Then I will give persons who have not registered an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. Please utilize the raise hand feature in Zoom to be called upon. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes at remote meetings be conducted by a roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, if any objections are noted, I will call for a roll call vote. For those council members participating from outside the council chamber, and I believe we're all here, in accordance with HRS Section 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audiovisual contact with you and cannot reconvene until we reestablish contact. Therefore, please announce beforehand if you're voluntarily signing out of the meeting. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones for the duration of the meeting. Turning to the agenda, Resolution 23-278 related to the appointment of the Director of Office of Council Services. We have Winton Park as the nominee who's present. Aloha, good morning, Mr. Park. Would you like to address the council members and the committee? Thank you so much for being here. And please introduce the folks who are with you today.
Aloha, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Say, and members of the committee. I'm Winton Park. First of all, I want to thank everybody for considering my nomination, and especially to thank the selection committee who went through the tough process of considering all the candidates and had the confidence to recommend me for this nomination. So, give you a little background of myself and why I'm interested and hopeful to get this position. I currently serve as the Senate Majority Attorney for the Hawaii State Senate. Immediately prior up to July, I also served as Director of the Senate Majority Research Office. In those two positions, we were the primary drafting agency for the Senate. We had large volumes. I think last year, 1,600 bills were introduced on the Senate side at the filing deadline, and my office processed approximately 3,200 requests for services. I've been an attorney in public and private practice since 1990. My current office is approximately the same size as the Office of Council Service, about 20 people. We service all the majority members of the Senate. So right now it's 23. We have been up to 25 at any one point in time. I think 3 or 4 sessions ago, we had no Republicans. We are able to provide services to everybody and to the Senate by maintaining strict confidentiality procedures. We would, I'm sure we would set similar parameters up here. I think coming in, this is a very unique opportunity. It's actually a new agency created. So I see it as an opportunity to work with all of the council members to create a service agency that meets your needs, both with drafting and with advice, and just being a little bit of a safety net for you guys at times. I think I mentioned to Councilmember Wire that I know you guys are 24/7 because of your constituent activities and outside activities. And similarly, I have always treated my job as being available to everybody. So, you want to call me at night, I consider that, something that's very reasonable, and I'll try to respond. We've also had the opportunity to work with outside counsel for the Senate at times where we didn't see eye to eye with the Attorney General. It's a little different process, but we've done litigation that way. We've sued the governor, sued agencies. And we've also worked closely with the AG to do things such as investigations or to try to mitigate problems with agencies and the legislature. So it's kind of a beyond just being an attorney job, but truly enjoy it. After 30 years, I think this is public service is what I find the most satisfying. And I've been able to do it at the state, congressional, and hopefully now at the county level. I'm very hopeful. One thing I hope to do is to come here and stabilize things, but mostly to meet with each of the council members, find out what the needs are, what's good, what could be improved, and build a team around that mission statement to provide a full scope of services and to truly have an office that's cohesive, supports each other, and supports the council members, to have direct interaction so that we can be more responsive, and just to provide a full spectrum of services, not just legal or not just drafting, but just to be a true support office. Yeah. So one thing I concentrate on as a manager is a team building concept. I think growing up, everybody's kind of plays sports or has activities, and I think everybody, regardless of what your title is, has an important value to the team. And if anybody is weak, you gotta pick them up, or otherwise the team is weak. So I think we were successful at doing that at the Senate. I'm hopeful we can do that here. And part of the team is not just the office, but the entire council and all the members. So I think if we can accomplish that team building concept, we'll go a long way to being a successful office. I just really thankful for this unique opportunity, and I'm very hopeful that you are favorable of my nomination.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your statement. Also want to welcome Council Member Okimoto to the hearing. Members, do we have any questions for the nominee? Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha and good morning. Thank you for being here and for volunteering. This is a new process for me, Chair, because I think in the past it seemed like there were nominees that were presented and I was able to meet with them. So maybe if you could clarify how you got to this point, and I would like to hear how your transition from state legislature, working with the state legislature will transfer here. As I've learned myself, they are two different beasts, if you could say. The state government is very different from the city government. So I was interested to see what your experience there, how it could translate here. But also, this is a new, and maybe Chair could clarify with me, because I hadn't known of the process until I saw that you were selected, whereas in other nominees, it seemed like it was presented to us and we would discuss and vote, but this seemed like a different process. And so if you could help me just to clarify and understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get to meet with you in person. I was planning to meet with the 4 other members who are not on this committee if I pass through the committee. So I apologize for that. As to your question of transitioning, I think a lot of the process and a lot of the, I guess, acumen, you might say, carries over in, knowing, having an instinct as to what the needs of the members are, what the needs of the institution are, and being able to carry that out. The city charter is much different than the Hawaii State Constitution. And I learned that the hard way by thinking, I'm just gonna read it and try to figure it out. So I ended up reading it like 2 or 3 times. And I'm like, okay, this is really different. But I do think there's gonna be a learning process. I'm gonna rely on staff a lot to, tell me when I'm wrong, tell me when I'm right. But I do expect there's going to be a grind just to learn the actual city charter versus the state constitution. I'm in over 30 years. I've practiced at or testified before all levels of government. I've had clients who've had city issues mostly with like DPP when I was doing construction work. So I think a lot of it is not gonna be natural to me at the beginning, but it's learnable through just doing the grind and reading and getting up to speed. Other than that, a lot of the processes are very familiar to me. They carry over. A lot of the state constitutional problems, are overriding. So to have that familiarity, I think, is a bonus for me. I don't have to go and track it down from ground zero. I have a pretty good instinct of what's in the Constitution and how it's been interpreted by the courts. It's been my job for the last 15 years. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'd also like to just point out your first question about the process. So under the charter, I believe it's Section 3 of Chapter 6 of the city charter, the Office of Council Services was codified based on a charter amendment that was approved by the voters, in which it created or put the Office of Council Services in the charter, but it basically says that the Office of Council Services Director shall serve a term of 6 years. And the current Director of Office of Council Service, the 6-year term was up. So what we did was we drafted and passed actually Resolution 23-163, creating a search committee made up of myself, Councilmember Kiaina, and Councilmember Say, in which we advertised. Actually, it went out beyond not just Honolulu, the state, but nationally as well. We got approximately 19 applicants. We narrowed it down and did interviews of a number of applicants, multiple interviews for some, and then deliberated and ultimately recommending to you all today, Mr. Park.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Thank you for, and the time that you guys put into looking through the applicants. I'm fascinated learning all the new steps that's happening. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question, though. Any other questions for the nominee, Councilmember Cordero?
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Park. As you know already, the major difference between the state legislature and the city council, although we are both legislators on both sides at the county and state level, is that we heavily have to abide by sunshine law. And so, which is, of course, HRS Chapter 92, whether it be like who we can speak with, how we can handle our business, how we operate our meetings, as well as I forgot, business, how we can for example, and also the records and how we keep records, and then also records requests too. And so as we rely and often consult with OCS for guidance and advice on compliance with Sunshine Law, of course, how familiar are you with Sunshine Law and the implications on and application to the legislative branch activities, since, once again, at the state, they could just caucus and do whatever. I mean, not whatever. I mean, they could speak freely.
Well, thank you for that question. Actually, prior to working at the legislature, I was an attorney at the Office of Information Practices, where we rendered interpretations and written decisions on Sunshine Law and on the records of the UIPA. I do handle all of the records requests for the Senate, for all the senators. I'm sure you guys get similar things where you get blasted. All of the 25 members get blasted with the same request. So a lot of times it's not the actual response that's difficult, it's the organizing the response that's difficult. Checking with 23 offices, make sure they do a good faith search, and then being able to report it back accurately. And that's the Sunshine Law. Yes, I haven't had to do it at the legislature, fortunately, but I am still familiar. I used to do training on it when I was at the Office of Information Practices for various state agencies. That was one of the things we did. And like I said, that's one of the areas where we were charged with interpreting and rendering decisions for agencies or for challengers.
Okay, great to know. And of course, would you be comfortable advising council members and staff on Sunshine Law issues as it pertains to our legislative activities?
I'm sorry.
Would you be comfortable advising council members, whether it be through your attorneys and analysts and staff, or yourself direct to the council members?
Yes, I'm sorry. I think the way I'm used to working is, if somebody on my staff has a really good relationship with the council member who's asking and is comfortable with rendering a decision or advice and is confident that their advice is correct, I have no problem with them having a casual conversation and advising. If, however, they are uncomfortable, I would expect them to come to me, and it would be my responsibility to find out the correct answer and then to report back and advise.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'll allow every other members to ask questions. But yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, any other questions? I do want to note the presence of Councilmember Tyler Dos Santos Tam. Thank you so much. Councilmember Say.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. No, I've known Mr. Park for a long time, coming from the state legislature, and his training and his background really exemplifies his commitment to what he has stated earlier, teamwork, working together with the staff that he has in getting the job done during that 60-day period. But I also wanted to say thank you very much for allowing me to be part of the committee, because we went through a thorough analysis of the 19 applicants. I was very much impressed with the numbers that we had, but more importantly, after we went through their resumes, their references, etc., and we went through the interview process, I thought that was really great. And all 6, 7 of them were very much well qualified. They were all qualified. How do you choose them? That's a decision that I had to make. And I just wanted to say that, for me, Mr. Park does have the characteristics of teamwork, and he'll be working with the present employees of the Office of Council Services. You would have to gain the respect of your peers, and you do have the integrity. There's, nothing about that. You're humble, open, and sometimes a little soft-spoken. Maybe be a lot more sociable. Right? When I say sociable, open up, share with what you have as your manao. Mr. Chair, I'm just elated to a degree that Mr. Park has submitted his name to be the administrator, but I looked at him from a very selfish point of view, a point of view that maybe this is the new beginning of the city council being a little bit more proactive during the months of January till May, or the whole year. Because with his background, I think we have already maybe conquered, or we've already gotten the opportunity of getting the ears of our state senators. If we have things that we want them to consider, you tell us how to go about doing it. If you want to twist their arms, you can, but not over here, okay, Mr. Park? When I say twist arms, hey, can you consider Chair Waters' bill, or Vice Chair Kiana's bill, or Chair Cordero, etc.? I think you bring a lot to the table here for the council and for the administration also. So in closing, I just wanted to share that thoughts with the members of the executive committee and for the general public at large. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be a part of the selection committee. I believe Chair Cordero and I were very blessed that you gave us the opportunity of the appointment of the auditor, that we went through the same process also. So in closing, it was a very open, very thorough, noteworthy as far as following the procedures that's all in place and so on. So I'm just very proud that Mr. Park has, looked at himself as being considered for this position. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Say. I do want to note that it is noon, and we do have a Committee on Executive Matters and Legal Affairs Committee that was also scheduled for noon. With your indulgence and approval, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, shall we continue your hearing to 12? How much time do you think we need, members? 12:20? Do you think 20 minutes?
Okay,
15?
we'll start Emma at 12:30 then,
12:30?
unless everyone's got lunch, we go 12:45.
Well, if we end this a
12:30,
little
12:30.
earlier, then people have a moment. Why don't we do 12:15? If we need more time, we can extend again. Is that okay? Okay, terrific. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. We're still in questioning of the nominee. Any further questions, members? We will have time for discussion as well. Okay, great. I'd like to now, thank you very much, Mr. Park. I'd like to take testimony. I do have a registered testifier list before me. It looks like we have no registered in-person testifiers. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Chair, there is none.
Thank you. Let's move to registered remote testifiers. I believe Angela Young has signed up to testify, and she also has her hand up. So please proceed, Ms. Young.
Aloha, Chair and the City Council, Angela Malatia, testifying in strong support of the nominee. Ooh, hey, I get to vote. I'm going to vote yes for the nominee. And so because of his legal expertise, I'd say that it's going to be very beneficial to legislating the city charter. And pursuant to Charter Section 3-602, the purpose of the Office of Council Services is to conduct research, including legal research, and any necessary anything else that's necessary to consider, adopt, and enact legislation. So, you know, as I was witnessing some of the bills and resolutions, what I noticed with the smoking bill, electronic devices, that there was not a lot of legal advice sought, and that the legal service branch may not have inputted, or maybe this is just an assumption, but the preemption, statutory parameters of the state preemption was not something that was discussed. So I think having someone who has really good legal background is going to be very helpful to the city council, although it's not my place to, you know, direct or anything, but I just wanted to say these things. Thank you.
Thank you for your Manawan testimony. Madam Clerk, do we have any other testifiers, either remote or in person?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you so much. Members, we're in discussion. I'd like to start off with, basically, I think Mr. Park is absolutely qualified for the job. As he mentioned, he was Senate Majority Research Officer. At that time, they often, coming from the legislature, I know how fast and furious drafting and introduction of bills, committee drafts, floor drafts, and whatnot. Having done 1,600 Senate bills in one session, 3,200 requests for services, and the fact that the Senate Majority Staff Office is the same size as Office of Council Services really is helpful. And I think the committee took all of that into consideration in selecting Mr. Park for the job. We really believe that he can hit the ground running because of his experience, but he also is willing to work with the attorneys and other staff at the Office of Council Services and work with each one of us and spend the time to get to know us and what our needs are outside of legislation, right? If we have research projects that we want, he commit to us that he'd work with us on that, which I liked a lot. Having said that, members, any further discussion? Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you, Chair. I am looking forward to Mr. Park coming on board, but I do want to say this with regard to the current leadership, both the director, deputy director, as well as all of the senior leadership for the Department of Council Services. I know I speak for myself. I've deeply appreciated the current director's leadership at the helm of OCS, and I am hoping that the current director and the senior leadership will help in that transition, and that would include, if the current director so desires, that they stay on board to help with this transition, because there's so much institutional knowledge that is already in place. And like anything, I know when there's changes, it can be hard sometimes, but changes occur in the city council every 4 years. And so I'm just hoping for a smooth transition during this process. Thank you.
I appreciate those comments and also want to echo those sentiments. That is my hope that the leadership team also does stay on, and not just for the transition, but permanently. Anyway, any further discussion, members? Seeing none, thank you very much. The chair recommends Resolution 23-278 be reported out for adoption. Any further discussion? Seeing none, any objections? Noting no objections or reservations, so ordered. There be no further business. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, members. Congratulations. But one more thing to do, full council.